Hello and welcome. On behalf of the Milburn High School Counseling Department, we're pleased to present Spilling the Tea on Sophomore Year. We hope to provide you with some useful information to help you and your student navigate the remainder of 10th grade and beyond. Today, we will focus on three main topics. First, we will discuss the role of the school counselor. This includes what school counselors do from day to day, the scope of our role with your student, and the things that we're not able to do in our position. The second topic is really the reason we're here. Every student has a unique story to tell. As they move through their 4 years here, we want to help them write their story. Finally, we'll take a look ahead in order to understand what to expect next year and beyond. Before we get started, it's important for me to introduce our school counseling team. Nancy Siegel is our head counselor and the foundation of our department here at Milburn High School. My name is Megan Garland, and I'm the college and career counselor. Our school counselors include Derek Gabene, Anne Gregory, Jasenia Herman, Steve Kroger, Caitlin Riley, and Mary Claire Tuma. If you were to ask any member of our counseling team what a typical day looks like, we would all have different answers. And quite honestly, not one of us could fairly answer that question because it varies significantly from day to day and sometimes even hour by hour. Our purpose is to work as part of the school community to help maximize student success and promote access and equity for all students. To this end, we help students apply academic achievement strategies, manage emotions and interpersonal skills, meet students where they are, work with them on their goals, and plan for post-secondary options. We meet with students individually. We communicate with parents, teachers, administrators, and other school staff, sometimes even outside healthcare providers. We handle emergency and crises. We make referrals to mental health providers, to support groups, and other specialists as needed. We maintain student confidentiality. We analyze data to support student growth and identify concerns. We serve as mandated reporters for students who might be harming themselves, have intent to harm others, or who are being harmed. We also engage in professional development, meet with college reps, participate on multiple committees, and many other things. Many questions came in from our parents of 10th grade students about policies, course eligibility, testing, grading, and homework. Our role as school counselors is to help your student navigate their high school journey. We don't make the rules, but we do help your students work within them in order to help meet their goals and support their growth. Some of the things that we don't or can't do include requesting specific teachers, moving your student's schedule based on preference for time of day or teacher, guaranteeing first choice electives, changing grades or discussing grade changes with teachers, or discussing testing or grading practices. Fortunately, the list of what we don't do is a lot smaller than the list of what we do. To help you better understand the best way to have all of your questions answered, I put together this visual. Step 1 is the first point of contact. The majority of questions that we get can be addressed directly with your student's teacher. Your school counselor can speak to the big picture, how your student might be doing overall, academically, emotionally, socially. If your student has an IEP, they have an assigned case manager. Case managers can help address or adjust accommodations. Our student assistant counselor, or SAC, is someone who deals specifically with mental health and substance use issues. Moving to step 2, if your academic questions are not resolved by speaking with the teacher or counselor, you may need to reach out to the department chair for that specific academic area. Every class has a grade level administrator. For 10th grade, this is Dr. Keenan. Any issues or questions you have that may not be addressed by teachers or counselors or department chairs can likely be addressed by Dr. Keenan. Grade level administrators also manage disciplinary and attendance issues. Finally, if all else fails, you can reach out to Dr. Myron, our building principal. Okay, do you see what I did here? Nothing is set in stone. The beauty of 10th grade is that there's still plenty of time to rewrite your story and plan the rest of your high school journey. 10th grade is a year of opportunity. It's not too late to try on something new, and in fact, we encourage it. Sophomore year is about self-reflection. There are 3 big questions your students should be asking themselves. What do I love? This is perhaps the most important question. Maybe it's playing a sport. Maybe you love nothing more than to perform on stage. Maybe it's hiking or coding or baking or working with animals. We ask students to really think about what they love to do and not what they think colleges want. Brainstorm your hobbies. Maybe it's making TikTok videos or playing video games. Stick with me on this one. The second question asks, what am I good at? What are those things that come naturally to your student? Or what are the things that maybe took some time, but now your student has gotten good at after some work and a little perseverance? A little bit of self-reflection will help your student figure out their talents. This brings us to the ultimate question. How can your student put these 2 things together to tell their story? You'll notice that I keep using the word story. This is how I like to frame your student's journey throughout high school. The beauty of storytelling is that no one has the same story. Colleges are overwhelmed with applications, and most of their students take the same classes, have the same test scores, the same activities and grades. When you look at college admission, especially competitive college admission, from the perspective of storytelling, this is when you begin to stand out. What is your story and how will you tell it? Think back to your own high school experience. You may have spent time with people who took the same classes, participated in the same activities, maybe even had identical test scores, but you were not the same people, and I bet that you had very different stories. Your student has a story. Our job as counselors is to help your student understand a critical component of storytelling is self-reflection. Our goal is to help them ask themselves the right questions. A good story includes lots of detail. Your student's story includes detail about their background. This may speak to a family background, culture, religion, politics, identity. It's very likely that your student has life experiences that are unique to them. We also spoke about what your student is good at. Talents can be an important aspect of your student's story. A talent does not necessarily mean that your student holds a world record or will win a Grammy for their vocal ability. Talents speak to anywhere your student might have natural ability, even if it hasn't been honed yet. Interests are an important detail in your student's story. Interests develop over time and often change as students mature and have more experiences. We all face challenges. Your student is no exception, and this is all part of their story. Some challenges are anecdotal, like someone who can't seem to wake up on time or always seems to drop their phone. Some students have faced more serious challenges, like experiencing the death of a loved one or managing their parents' divorce. Some challenges might be physical or mental or financial, or coming from another country and having to navigate learning a new language and making friends. Accomplishments. I know we're only talking about sophomores in high school here, but if you dig deep enough, you'll be able to find your student has some accomplishments. Again, we are not looking for Nobel Prizes or Oscars or Olympic gold medals. While we have come across some students who have notable accomplishments even at an early age, that's definitely the exception and not the norm. Accomplishments can look like overcoming a fear of public speaking. If the story is shared in an authentic way, it can be far more impactful than even a world record. Remember, there is no formula. Every story is unique. We already reflected on the important questions. What do I love and what am I good at? Two more important questions for your student right now are, where do I want to be at the end of high school? And how can I get there? This can be as simple as college or military or trade school or NBA draft pick. Or it can be as detailed as a multi-year plan to pursue specialized field of medicine. The truth is that most 10th grade students don't know what they want, even when they think they do. Maybe you were the lucky exception that knew what you wanted to be from an early age and you followed every step to get there, never veering off course. Congratulations, I envy you. Your students are growing up at an age where people switch jobs and even professions multiple times in their working life. Having an exact plan is not needed to be successful at this stage. However, to answer the questions, where do I want to be after high school and how do I get there, we have to look at the academic story. Academic stories for our students here at Milburn on a fundamental level look somewhat similar. All of our students must meet the requirements for graduation from a New Jersey public high school. This includes the basic requirements listed here. You can easily find these requirements in our course catalog, which is available on our website. With all of the basics already spelled out for you, how can you think about your academic story? The first way is to go back to the original questions. What do I love and what am I good at? Once you have an understanding of this, you can choose courses that fulfill these requirements and reflect your interests and abilities. Take challenging courses in your area of strength and interest. Despite what you may assume, colleges are not simply counting up the number of AP courses you can collect across many different subject areas. Sure, strong academics are an indication of academic ability and potential. But in a college admissions landscape that finds the most selective schools receiving tens of thousands, sometimes in excess of 100,000 applicants that are all highly qualified, it's very difficult to stand out. What does help a student stand out is their academic story. If your student has a knack for world languages, taking multiple languages at the high school level will help them stand out and tell a college about their interests. A student who forgoes taking an advanced science class to fit in electives that are related to their interest in history and politics will stand out more than someone taking classes simply because they are viewed as challenging. When we talk about your student's academic story, it's important for you to understand what actually appears on a transcript. When transcripts are ready to be sent to colleges, they will include the title of every course taken at Milburn High School. If your student happens to have transferred from another high school, those courses and grades will also appear along with the name of the other high school. The final grades for every course will appear along with the credit value for each course. The GPA will be reported, and that includes the final averages for grades 10 and 11. Senior year courses in progress will also be listed. It may also be useful for you to understand what does not appear on your student's transcript. Quarter grades, exam scores, standardized test scores, attendance records, and student supports like IEPs or 504 plans will not be included. Additionally, GPA is not included for grade 9. We've talked about building your student's academic story, and that brings us to the topic of scheduling. Students will begin the course selection process for junior year courses in March. Students and families will be sent instructions to select courses in the PowerSchool portal ahead of their scheduling appointment with their counselor. A copy of the course catalog will be available online along with a scheduling guide for grade 11. All 10th grade students will meet with their counselor on March 19th or 20th in their English class to ask questions and confirm their course requests. Final grades at the end of the year will determine level placement. At the time of scheduling, placement will be based on the student's semester grade in each course. Initial schedules will be available to students in early to mid-July, and no changes to schedules will be made after July 31st. Looking at the courses available to juniors, a typical junior schedule will include English, which could be British literature or AP language and composition, social studies, which would be US History 2 or AP US History, math, which would be the next course in your student's progression. For most juniors, this would either be Algebra 2 or Pre-Calculus. Science, which for most juniors will be chemistry, and for some juniors with an advanced interest in physics, they may take physics. World language would be the next course in their course progression. And in terms of electives, they'll be able to look at the course catalog for all of the available options. All students will be enrolled in a full year of PE and health. So grades and testing are important, but top colleges are flooded with academic achievers. The next element to consider is your student's extracurricular story. Their story is more likely to be remembered and certainly enhanced by the things that they are doing outside the classroom. But authenticity is the key here. I have so many parents come to me convinced that their child must have community service and participate in a sport and play an instrument and be a part of the debate team in order to get into a top college. I know it's tempting to look for the roadmap or the formula, but being authentic with the activities you choose will go a lot farther with admissions professionals than trying to participate in things that you think colleges want to see. Because guess what? Everyone else is choosing the profile that they think colleges want to see. And how will you stand out if you follow a formula? Freshman year is meant for exploration, joining clubs related to your interests. If you're already in activities you enjoy, you should continue and seek ways to make an impact. By the end of sophomore year, you should be reevaluating your activities to ensure that they still make sense for you. Make sure that you choose the activities that create joy and align with your evolving interests. Enjoy the journey of learning about different areas of interest, not just the goal of getting into college. Remember, the process is about personal relevance, not just meeting college expectations. Map out your high school experience early to empower yourself, to reduce anxiety, and to create the experience that you want. It's okay to let go of the activities that you no longer enjoy. It's also okay to start something new. You still have time for leadership development and for creating opportunities. The summer following sophomore year can be a great time to explore specific interests. This allows you to get some experience with a particular area of interest and pursue it on a deeper level following junior year. When we talk about different colleges, we often think about the academic programs they offer. But the truth is that college is a community. Your students' involvement in extracurricular activities can help inform a college how they will be able to contribute to their community. So, what exactly are they looking for in your students' extracurricular story? If you do some research on colleges or you take a college tour in the coming months or even beginning next year, you may hear colleges speak about wanting to see leadership by senior year. This is something that often sends families into a panic. This by no means suggests that you have to be president of your class or even president of a club. It certainly doesn't mean that you have to go out and create a club so that you can have the title of founding president. Leadership can be demonstrated in many ways, and admissions officers are trained to see leadership in the behind-the-scenes students as well. Our spring musical could not run without the stage crew. Colleges are simply not paying attention to the lead in the show or the president of the drama club. The students who build the sets, who change the scenes, who manage the lighting, or who play in the pit band are essential to a successful production. Colleges call these students gluey. They are the students who keep things together, and this is viewed as leadership. So don't worry if your child is not an extrovert or an obvious leader. Dedication. Colleges definitely appreciate long-term commitment. When they see that a student has been involved in an activity over a long period of time, it tells a story about the student's interests. Again, we have to keep in mind the authenticity piece. This does not mean that a student should keep participating in something they're not enjoying or that has no meaning for them. When we talk about quality, we like to explain that as depth versus breadth. It's better to have fewer activities with more quality involvement than a giant list of things that you can't possibly dedicate quality time towards. More does not equal better. How can a student demonstrate initiative? If something wasn't available, or a club or activity wasn't running well or had low attendance, did you do something to make it better? Colleges put more weight on improving an existing program in your school than creating something new. The truth is, they're flooded with students claiming to run their own businesses or start new clubs, but what they really want to see is, did you make your own school better? What this all boils down to for colleges is potential. Can they infer, based on your extracurricular involvement, that you will bring the same excitement, leadership, dedication, and initiative to their campus community? I think it's important to point out a few things that may require some advanced preparation. If your student has any desire to play a sport in college at the Division 1, 2, or even 3 levels, this is something that you want to get familiar with now. Go to the NCAA website and learn the steps and the requirements. You may have a student who's considered a military academy or an ROTC program. This is also something that requires advanced preparation, and there are steps you must take before the fall of your senior year. For students who may be interested in pursuing studio art, fashion design, musical theater, dance, or musical or vocal performance, many college programs will want to see a portfolio of work or require an audition as part of their evaluation. This is something that may be useful to understand so that you're not surprised and rushing to meet these requirements in the summer before your senior year. If you would like to know more about these things, you can reach out to your student's counselor. So standardized testing is an inevitable part of your student's story, but it's very different from the way it was when you and I were in high school. The pandemic, the college admissions scandal, both impacted how colleges consider standardized testing. Since 2020, most schools have waived the testing requirement and they offer test optional admissions paths. This is something that changes from year to year. While many schools were considered test optional long before COVID happened, COVID forced the schools to look at the need, the value, and the equity of requiring standardized tests. The good news is that most colleges have continued to offer test optional admissions. However, we are seeing some colleges return to the requirement. We get a lot of questions about testing. Should my student test? Which test? When should my student test? How many times should they test? As all of our students have different stories, their testing story will also be unique to them. When we talk about standardized testing, we're talking about the SAT and the ACT. It's helpful to think of these tests like Visa and MasterCard. Both tests are accepted at every college. There is no preference for one over the other. We suggest, if you're unsure which test your student should focus on, get a baseline understanding of both and then study for the one you do better on. Our PTO offers an ACT-SAT comparison test. There are also full-length practice tests online, among other resources, and test prep companies often offer these practice tests to draw in business. Some of your students may have already had a baseline after taking the PSAT last October. Next year, your students will automatically be registered for the PSAT. To understand the basic differences between the two tests, we can look at the format. SAT recently changed to an all digital format. ACT remains pencil and paper. The SAT is roughly 2 hours long, while the ACT is roughly 3 hours long. SAT is made up of two sections, a reading and writing section and a math section. The ACT has four sections: English, reading, math, and science. SAT is scored from 400 to 1600, while ACT is scored from 1 to 36. Both tests have no penalty for incorrect answers, and both are often offered 7 times per year. Students should speak to their counselor about timing. A general guideline is to wait until your student has at least half a year of Algebra 2 under their belt. The time of year should be based on your student's schedule. If they have a very busy fall, they may want to think about waiting until spring. A word of caution on testing: more does not equal better. Your student is not likely to improve dramatically after taking the test 3 times. Again, your counselor can help with these decisions, and testing is a small part of your story. It should not take up too much space. On to the next question. Should I apply test optional? If your student's testing is not strong or an accurate reflection of them as a student, you may want to consider test optional admissions. A good basic guideline is to look at the school's reported test averages. If your student's scores fall below the average, you should speak with your counselor about whether to apply with testing or without. The good news: test optional is truly test optional. When your student is evaluated as a candidate for admission under a test optional plan, testing is not considered at all. It does not impact how the admissions team is evaluating you as a student. It just means that they are using the other elements, your transcript and essay and recommendations and extracurricular activities, to evaluate you. At this time, most colleges have been reporting in the range of 40 to 50% of their applicants applying as test optional, and similar numbers are reflected in their offers of admission. 40 to 50% of their admitted students applied without testing. The last thing I'd like to talk about is a platform that we use to help students self-reflect and begin to put the pieces of their story together. As we return back to the original big questions: what do I like, what am I good at, and how can I put these things together to write my story? Naviance Student is a very useful tool to help with your students' self-reflection. In junior year and senior year, Naviance will be more about specific college research and college applications. But this year, we encourage students to use Naviance to self-reflect. There are assessments that your student can take to inform them about their strengths, weaknesses, interests, personality traits, and learning styles. In addition, they can investigate career paths, majors, and the preparation required to pursue those paths. Some of these assessments will help them understand themselves better as students. They will point to techniques that are best suited to their intelligence and learning styles. These can have a direct impact on performance in their current classes. It can also help them learning about careers and majors that they may not have considered or even known about. Your students have been given access to this program, and for them, it's a single sign-on program, so there are no extra passwords to remember. Parents will be emailed a unique code to give them access to view many of the features available. Thank you for listening to our presentation. I hope that this provides you with some useful information about your students' journey and their story as they navigate Milburn High School. We're excited to expand our programming to give you the most up-to-date and helpful information to alleviate some of the stress of high school life. To that end, let's look at what's coming up. On March 19th and 20th, students in 10th grade will select their courses for junior year. Please keep an eye out for messaging from Dr. Myron about our updated course catalog and the scheduling process. On March 25th at 7 p.m. in the MHS auditorium, we will welcome John Kleiman from Challenge Success. He will speak about a healthy approach to college admissions. This spring, we'll once again offer a college admission panel to speak about the most updated information about college admissions. Stay tuned for announcements about this event. Just a reminder that our office is on Instagram. We are at Milburn School Counseling. Thank you once again, and we look forward to partnering with your student as they continue to write their story.